Good evening. I call to order this regular meeting of the Verona Township Council for Monday, the 21st of July, 2025. Madam Clerk, could you please read the Open Public Meetings Act compliance statements?
Requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied with council. The meetings along with the public internet link and telephone call-in information. Said notice and meeting agenda was posted in the municipal building and sent to the official newspapers of the township, the Verona City Times, and the Star Ledger, at least 48 hours preceding the start time of this meeting. The agenda and handouts can be viewed at veronanj.org/council meetings. A public comment period will be held in the order it is listed on the meeting agenda, and instructions on how to comment will be provided at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman McGrath.
Here.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy.
Present.
Sorry. Mayor Tamboro.
There.
Mayor also present. Sullivan, Deputy Township Manager Michael Kraus, myself, Municipal Clerk Jennifer Kiernan.
Thank you. Would everybody please stand for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The mayor's report this evening will be very brief, as I was gone for 2 weeks. But today we had the pleasure of welcoming the family of Lieutenant Robert Wilson, who is from Verona and died during World War II in Papua New Guinea. His remains were found a couple of years ago during a construction project. And the Air Force has been working with his family to repatriate him home. Some of this was facilitated by Rob Caruso, who's the curator of the Verona Heroes Project. And Mr. Caruso was able to approach the council after the Air Force researcher found the information on the website. He was able to get the family together, and we were able to present his surviving family, his cousin, his nephews, with a street sign that replicates the one on Forest Avenue in his honor today. So it was an absolute joy to be able to do that and to show that Verona will always remember those who sacrificed for our country. And finally, I'd like to thank Deputy Mayor McAvoy for taking his old chair in the last meeting and presiding. That's probably why I didn't have the right chair at the beginning of the meeting. He's taller, so he's a lower chair. But thank you for that, Jack. I appreciate it. And at this time, I'll call Mr. Coltrane, kind of liaison. No, it's mine. Can't have it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I was just speaking with the town manager, and apparently you had some information from the health department from Maya Harlow, and she's a little bit under the weather. She cannot attend this evening. I was texting her just before I walked. Hate to say that, but she's under the weather. So I would imagine she'll be back fairly soon.
You don't want to pinch hit, Jack?
No, I don't know anything about the health department. But I'll try if you need. Some things that you're definitely going to be interested in. This Friday, they're going to start paving the intersections. So once they start this Friday, it'll take 5 days to do the intersections. And I spoke to them just before I got here a couple of hours ago. And I guess the center part that they have taken milled already, that goes with the intersection. So they're starting that on Friday night. It will take 5 days to do those. And then the rest of the paving will take about 8 days. And hopefully we'll have no chaos in the center of town.
We could move the chaos to Montclair.
Well, never know. Next Wednesday is the mayor's meeting, Wednesday the 30th. And there will not be a mayor's meeting in August. possibly for your deputy manager. We are having a ribbon cutting next on July 31st. And that's at Weequahic Park. We just renovated the entire course. So if you are a golfer, please come down, and then it'll be open to the public on August 1st. And from, if you've been looking on the internet, Facebook and Instagram, you've been seeing pictures and the total layout. But please come, make it a point. We're still having our summer music festivals throughout the county. There will be one, I was looking here, Wednesday, July 30th in Cedar Grove Park, in Cedar Grove, which is right next door. And if you got it, or you can go to the park website and see all the remaining concert series. There's other things at the zoo and other things happening throughout the county. Short report, but if you have any information or need anything, please let me know.
Any questions for Mr. Coulter? No, thank you, Dave.
Of course, it'll be beautiful.
We'll decide whether that's an excused absence for that. All right, moving on to our township managers report. Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor. I will hit the highlights on my report and then I'll circle back to a more lengthier discussion on the pool finances. For the wastewater efforts, the township is going through. We've received the 60% design drawings from our design engineer for the disinfection system and the microscreen project, so that's moving along. For our drinking water system, we expect to be closing out Lynn Drive well in the next meeting or two, and Fairview Avenue well we have on the agenda tonight for an award of contract. We've also had our kickoff meeting with Montclair for an emergency interconnection on July 10th. We'll continue moving forward with those discussions, and then Claridge Drive Pump Station is expected to start roadway excavations. Some notices as soon as we get a little bit closer and a more firm date. Jumping through, we have our pre-construction meeting. We have our pre-construction meeting for Everett Field scheduled for Thursday. We'll get a construction schedule from the contractor at that meeting. Kicking off our community energy plan in the next week, we received a final authorized grant agreement from the state. We have on tonight's agenda a contract to authorize services for technology upgrades for the council chambers. We will be advancing that project immediately upon authorization tonight. With Bloomfield Avenue Streetscape, we've held kickoff meetings with Strands Engineering. First meeting was held July 15th. We have another progress meeting scheduled for tomorrow. We are focusing first efforts on communication plans for all of the different interest groups and stakeholders for this project. For the building facility needs, we continue to move forward with all the repointing and the window replacements. We are on schedule with that project. Our roofing repairs for the community center and communication tower building are under design. And all the improvements in the basement quarters of the town hall building for the environmental cleanup is proceeding as scheduled. Jumping ahead, we also are authorizing tonight a contract with NJ Future. There's a resolution authorizing that contract that will kick off our age-friendly audit and action plan. And we are moving forward that project in parallel with our grant for the Inclusive Healthy Community Program. Otherwise, unless there's any other questions for items reported in my report, I'll back to the pool discussion. I will just to provide a little bit of background and context on the discussion. Obviously, I will recap the fact that the pool rates and the membership discussions and the the pool financials has been a point of discussion for the council administration for the past few years. There have been a number of discussions regarding the direction that the pool finances were and that the position that the pool finances were in. We actually took the step of bringing in a professional consultant to assess the rate needs, the revenue needs, and the expenses for the pool. We completed that study earlier this year. We have that study on the township's website. There were a number of recommendations that were provided in that study, and there were a number of suggestions through those earlier discussions that are largely being mirrored by a lot of suggestions from the public that we've received in the past couple of weeks. That said, just to give a current snapshot on where the pool finances are, it's partially in response to some of the talk within the community, but also partially just to correct a little bit of the narrative that might be a slight misunderstanding of the current pool finances. The pool finances are in a state of needing to be discussed. The pool budget for 2025 did rely upon a $200,000 funding from the pool utilities surplus, and that was complemented with rate increases to the pool for membership and increases to a number of the other miscellaneous revenues that are brought into the pool. That's rentals for the pool, preseason concerts, preseason parties at the pool. What the result of that is, there has been a slight reduction in the pool membership for the 25 pool season compared to 2024. Most notably, there's been about an 8% decrease in the family memberships. That, in addition to the increase in the pool rates, has resulted in a net increase in revenue of approximately $45,000 to date. So it's, while we've hit our anticipated revenue, the surplus that we've generated through that additional 45,000 is going back to regenerating surplus that we relied upon at the beginning of the pool season. Additionally, there's a number of miscellaneous revenues that are coming into the pool. Again, that is a combination of some additional programming. We've had the Taylor Swift concert. We had some sponsorships for that concert in addition to revenues for ticket sales. We've held a pickleball tournament, which was funded both through sales of entry fees, which provided the entrance access to the pool for the day, but it was also sponsored through some sponsorships for that event as well. There's also been, as I mentioned, there's been increased rental fees for use of the pool, increased rental fees for some of the gazebo uses. That so far has resulted in revenue in 2025, basically meeting the full season revenue of 2024. 2024, there was a revenue of about $132,000 in miscellaneous revenues. This year, we are $128,000 so far to date. The last 6 weeks of the 2024 pool season generated about an additional $50,000 worth of revenue through those miscellaneous fees, guest passes, parties, and the like. So there's a hope and an expectation that there will be another $50,000 worth of revenue generated through the pool. So that $50,000, in addition to the $45,000 in increases in membership revenues, has generated an additional $95,000 in pool revenue. It's still not hitting the $200,000 that was relied upon from the beginning of the pool season, but there are other efforts that are still ongoing. There was, as I mentioned earlier in my report, there was the Inclusive Healthy Communities Grant, which is partially funding additional resources and staffing for Inclusive Healthy Communities programming. That's partially offsetting some of the staffing for the rec tent in the pool. There is also an ongoing discussion regarding the memberships for the fire and rescue squad. There was a discussion and an analysis with the value of the training that has been provided through fire and rescue. The value of the training is approximately $15,000. The value in the memberships that have been afforded is approximately $25,000. So there's a $10,000 difference. Administration is currently working through potential sponsorships or some sort of line item financing regarding the difference, the $10,000 difference, which would be through the implementation of a four-way shared service between the pool, the township, and both volunteer service organizations. All that's to say that there are a lot of moving pieces that are still going on. There's active work in managing the general expenditures at the pool. We don't have a clear picture of what the final expenses of the pool will be, as we are just starting to process payrolls at the pool. And we are continuing to purchase miscellaneous items that are necessary. We're still incurring the electric bills. We're still purchasing chlorine for the pool. So we are still monitoring the expenses while pursuing a variety of revenue sources. I know there's been a lot of discussion regarding the pool recently, so I wanted to open up the discussion with the council and advise the council and the general public that it is an ongoing process. We are continuing to gather data as the pool season is continuing. And it will be an ongoing exercise, and it'll be probably a larger discussion on how do we close whatever that gap ends up being. How do we regenerate the 200,000? How do we get the revenues into the pool to match the expenses of the pool? We need the full picture of the full pool season to have the real discussion, and we're not quite at the end of the pool season, but we should expect to have those discussions probably at some point in either the second meeting in September or maybe the first meeting in August. Actually, I think we only have one meeting in September, so it might either be the September meeting or the first meeting in October. But we'll gather that data as the pool season progresses, and we'll continue to have these discussions. And there's been a lot of recommendations that have been provided both from the public and from the advisory committee. It's been a lot of those recommendations reflect conversations that we've already had, both at the administrative level and also with the council. But again, those are items that we'll continue to look at and discuss, and everything is really on the table as far as how do we make the pool utility a fully healthy, self-liquidating utility.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Any questions or comments from the council? Councilwoman McGrath.
Thank you. I just want to thank the administration for answering a lot of questions from that we all had this week, and I want to thank the public for their engagement and enthusiasm on this topic. It's clear that the pool is a beloved utility, and it is strong financially. We just need to make it stronger. And I look forward to those future conversations in September and October. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. O'Sullivan, thank you for that little bit of an update. I will obviously wait till September, October, because fees aren't going to change until we decide in the fall, probably, to see what we're going to do. I'd like to thank our committee members, our chairs in the audience here, put a ton of time into this. And thank you for sitting down and talking about it and going over it, and the administration's time on this. I know it's a difficult thing to talk about if it's especially when you hear that it may close, which I will be totally against. I grew up going to that pool. I spent many years there, and it's just a gem for this town, and it's something that we will keep going. But I look forward to the discussions in September or October. So thank you.
The pool is not going anywhere.
Yeah, right.
So I want to clarify that. The pool is not going anywhere. The pool will run, it will operate. Mr. O'Sullivan has volunteered to run it on his own. Push comes to shove, we're gonna put the deputy mayor in a lifeguard uniform and we'll be all good. But
I'll run concessions.
I'll run the office. But in all seriousness, I think the point that we're trying to make is that the council is determined on this. And the real question is next year, right? That's when our additional funds and surplus are no longer available to us. And looking ahead to seeing where we are now and what we need to do to close that gap is really the question that we're coming up with. And I will reflect my colleagues. Thank yous to our rec subcommittee, pool subcommittee, and the entire rec committee for sending unanimous recommendations to the council, which certainly help in the time that Mr. Shore has spent meeting with everybody and having these conversations. And I think it's important that we're all there. I do make it a point to visit the pool on a regular basis, even though I'm not a member. But I do go over and check the pool out during the weekday, on the weekends, different times, different weathers, just to get some evidence of that and talk to residents and talk to the staff. And I'm sure the staff loves that, right, Walter? They just love when I show up. And but the reality of it is we are committed to making sure that the pool operates in a way that is good for our residents and that keeps it going in a cost conscious and forward thinking. So Sullivan, thank you for that report and for going through the statistics and the detailed report. And if the public wants to see any of this information, it is certainly available through a public records request, or you could just email the township manager's office and they can get it to you. Mr. Krause.
For the town hall facility needs, the GIF and PMA have informed us that they are starting to process reimbursements. We are expecting a payment in the coming days or week of $37,094.40. We are awaiting review of $12,541 for reimbursement. They are still looking at reimbursing us for the lead paint remediation that happened in the police station. Regarding staffing, we received 44 applicants for the Director of Community Services. There are some very qualified individuals. The administration reviewed all of them. 16 have been forwarded to appropriate for review. We're awaiting their comments. We asked for them back, I believe, tomorrow by noon, and then we'll schedule first round interviews for the top candidates and then move on to second round interviews. The interest in that position has reaffirmed our belief that we need to move our job application process into the 21st century and get an online platform that will store resumes and automatically send them out.
I think that's moving to the 20th century.
Maybe. That we will move forward with in 2026, as it was not budgeted for this year. The mid-year budget review, the administration is meeting with the CFO on Wednesday. We have done a preliminary check and identified accounts that are above expected utilization. And we'll dive further into that and try to figure out what course corrections can be made mid-year. Regarding the Department of Community Services and the pool, the administration is still in contact with them daily. On summer playgrounds, just so everyone is aware, the registration significantly increased this year from 420 in 2024 to 551 participants in 2025. We attempted to reduce some payroll costs, but we may exceed what was budgeted for due to the increased registration this year. Many landlords or multifamily owners have received a letter from Lou Environmental about the New Jersey lead law requiring periodic inspections. The letter stated they have until July 22nd to schedule the inspection. Lou is actively working to schedule all inspections when people reach out to them. Property owners also have the ability to schedule or obtain a inspection through a different vendor. If they elect to do that, they'll receive their lead safe or lead free certificate. They would bring it to the building department along with a check for the state fee, which is $25, I believe, and the municipal processing fee, which is $20. And then later on tonight in new business, we have 2 ordinances for discussion. The public health one will be rescheduled when Maya is available so that she can give a better explanation than I can. The first ordinance is about the children's fund. Historically, the children's fund has been used in a way that's not clearly defined in the ordinance, and benefits have been paid out to individuals who might not fit neatly into a category. So we are recommending adding a category of up to 185% of the federal poverty level.
Where does that come from? That
The
185?
Department of Health and Human Services. I have it downloaded. I can send it to everyone if they would like. I believe if I'm remembering right, for a single person household, it's around $28,000 or $30,000 is the 185% limit. There was also a section in the ordinance about the fund committee making ranking decisions on whose application is more worthy than someone else's, and we are recommending removing that. There was also a draft policy that the administration came up with. And it points out that applications will be accepted on a rolling basis. Individuals who receive benefits will be able to receive 1 benefit per 6-month period. That's in part because the children's fund is currently in a position where it's paying out substantially more benefits than money it is taking in. So we felt this was a short-term change to hopefully shore up the finances of the children's fund. We're also going to make a larger effort to market the children's fund and solicit donations. And then on the fee schedule, the health department fees we can discuss when Maya is here. The recreation fees, a great deal of work was put in by the Recreation Advisory Committee, and the administration is accepting of their recommendations for fees, which will assist with covering not just programming fees, but some of the indirect costs that go along with running a recreation program. There is also a Eric Mortensen Memorial Golf Tournament and Fundraiser. The committee that runs the golf tournament has had to increase fees because of the costs from Montclair Golf Club. There was a typo in my report that Councilwoman McGrath noticed on dinner only. It should have read $100, not $4,200. And
Expensive.
very expensive.
Why did you correct that?
Clearly something.
And forward to discussing those in the visits. Any
Questions, Mr. Kraus? Thank you, Mr. Kraus.
thank you.
Moving on to council member reports, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Short one tonight. I just want to remind everybody that this Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, we have the concert in the center of town. It is sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce, and the band is John McDermott Band. And one of the people in the band are a member of the Chamber of Commerce. So come out and join us. It's going to be a lovely evening. Weather looks great this week. And Mayor, you mentioned earlier, Lieutenant Robert Wilson's family was here today. It was an honor to meet him and listen to him, and they're very grateful that they were here honored by the town. They were honoring his it was actually his cousin, his first cousin. The fact that they came up here thinking it was honoring a bunch of people, and it was just for him. And we had quite an audience for him, from people working from town, and a lot of other residents. Councilwoman McGrath and Mayor and myself were here, so they were very grateful. And that is all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilman Rowan.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to check on one thing, which is the county road work on Bloomfield Avenue. Just wanted to know if we knew how much of this work was going to continue to be overnight work, and when that phase of the project might wrap up, if we know. And then also, I just wanted to thank the township manager and deputy township manager for working on getting a refresh of the quote for the AV systems. I've looked it over. It looks good. I'm sending just some minor comments over that shouldn't affect it, but it does look like it's going to be a great upgrade for both our venues. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilman. Do you have any information on the road?
I believe the county's intention is to continue with overnight paving operations, but I'll confirm and I'll get an answer to the council.
Okay, just so that we can sort of set expectations, because at least the demolition and concrete breaking and so on was a little bit noisy. I understand it's the best way to do this, but it would be nice to tell people what to expect at least. So thank you.
It would be helpful to information out. And we just heard the intersections are gonna be started and will take 5 days and then the rest, so we're looking at a couple of weeks.
I'll get the details from the county engineer and we'll put some messaging out to the public.
Thank you.
Sullivan, and thank you, Councilman Roman, for using your expertise on that quote. We have no sorry, Councilman McGrath.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the concert with Councilman McAvoy. It was really excellent. The first kickoff one, that was great. And the ceremony today for Lieutenant Wilson was really a special thing to be part of. So I thank his family for coming. There was a neighborhood traffic and safety committee meeting. They are very excited for the council to see the complete streets policy. My understanding from the township manager's report is that our engineering firm Boswell has done a final review and that the administration will be presenting to the council soon. And the neighborhood traffic and safety committee will attend to provide their perspective as well. As a reminder, I think Verona is one of the only towns in Essex County without a complete streets policy, and it was part of our master plan. They also talked about the Essex County Safe Streets for All project, and through the initiative of one of our members, Liz Hines, she found out Verona's participation through Boswell, and we were able to get a copy of the report. Thank you, Mr. O'Sullivan. I think the entire council would benefit from seeing that interim analysis from the Essex County Safe Streets from All project. It was a really interesting presentation because it showed exactly where Verona residents answered what their pain points were with traffic and safety, and you can see Bloomfield Avenue highlighted multiple times. I think the whole council should see that. They will continue conversations in the fall, and we just want to make sure Verona is well represented on those county meetings because this is a really important project. The Shade Tree Committee also met, and it was a fantastic meeting because our Director of Public Works, Chuck Molinaro, joined, and they had a great conversation about how things have been improving, managing shade trees over the last few years. And they agreed that Public Works will be marking out some good locations where shade trees can be planted in the future so that the Shade Tree Committee can start an outreach campaign in conjunction with Public Works to replant, which was a project that was funded under our new capital ordinance. So that we just passed last week, which was great. The Multicultural Inclusion and Accessibility Advisory Committee will not be meeting this week, but they have a webinar, free webinar planned for Wednesday, July 30th at 6 p.m. on inclusive hiring with an expert from the state. This is for Disability Pride Month, and it has been promoted through Verona and through the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to our partners at the Chamber. Again, that's Wednesday, July 30th at 6 p.m. It's on Zoom. You can register by going to the veronanj.org site, clicking on the calendar, going to June 30th and clicking on the event, and there is a Zoom registration. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We have no ordinances on the agenda tonight, so at this time we'll open for public comment on any item. Anybody who wishes to comment on actually, I'm quick to read the public comment statement. Sorry, I hit my head right there.
Wishing to speak on any matter, if you are attending via Zoom, please raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button on your monitor. If you're on, press *9. And if you're attending in person, please raise your hand to be acknowledged before approaching the lectern. Once recognized, clearly state only your name and township of residence for the record. You are not provided to provide your street address. However, if you do, please note that these meeting recordings are public record and addresses will not be redacted for any purpose. You'll have 4 minutes to address the council. There'll be no cross dialogue during this public portion. After everyone wishing to speak has been, council may address your comments and or questions. Dr. Lawrence.
Mr. Pennell.
Ma'am,
Over here. Oh, yes, yeah.
Okay. Shall we do it now? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Joseph Panulo. I live in Essex Fells. I'm the president of We Care, an objector for a 500-unit project development on the border of Verona, Essex Fells in the town of West Orange. I brought 2 sets of documents this evening. One addresses a resolution, I believe, with a services agreement for a pending DEP permit appeal. And what I brought you is a copy of the support for Verona, Essex Fells, and Roseland are currently appealing. You may not be aware of it, but that is an unprecedented appeal of a DEP permit by municipalities who were deemed to not have standing to serve the public interest and the public safety. That narrow path with regard to public drinking water, there is a broader case supported by We Care as the plaintiff. Eastern Environmental Law Center is the council. That's all they do. They are based in Newark, former Rutgers Environmental Law Center. We are joined by the New Jersey Conservation Foundation. And what I brought is a short case information statement of approximately 20+ elements that would be in excess of those elements that the townships jointly are moving, which is the balance of what is an accretive, broad-based appeal on legal grounds, public safety grounds, et cetera. I would encourage you to see that, review it, and please support that resolution. It is critical. The second reason I'm here tonight, and attached in a short stack I brought, is to encourage the town council and perhaps the business manager to review a resolution from September 25th, 1980, another one from 1983, and minutes from a planning board meeting held in West Orange at which the Township of Verona on Howell Drive and the development there with West Orange and Verona back in the 1980s, how tourist states, was subject to certain conditions when that was a forest. Howell Drive didn't exist, homes didn't exist. At the top of the mountain ridge, the second ridge of the Watchung Forest, the conditions of the approval by the Verona Planning Board were subject to a restriction, a deed restriction on 6 single-family lots that are in the Howell cul-de-sac that go up to the border of Verona. The developer proposed 20 years ago, has proposed again now to utilize 2 of those lots to build a road for emergency access, fire, emergency egress for what was shot down 20 years ago for 136 single-family homes. And your planning board attorney then, same man now, appeared before the planning board in West Orange and stated that there were deed restrictions on those lots in 1980, put them into the record. It was very hard to find these 45-year-old documents. There was a flood here, I think, in town. It was hard for us to find. These things will be lost forever. The planning board attorney in Verona is the only man that has standing to actually enter these documents and speak to verify what he said 20 years ago. Now, in this planning board hearing, it is critical. We would encourage you, if you would, give that green light. I provided minutes from 2007, a copy of the resolution from from September 25th, 1980. I yellowed them out so you could see where the conditions, restrictions were, and that was supported further in 1983. If that is violated now, the Township of Verona has no recourse. Violation of those deed restrictions then would have voided the approval. Now people live in those homes. The roads are there. It's a nightmare. We're trying to do everything we can to stop that. That deed restriction, should stand. And I was just trying to enlighten and broaden the information that you would have that's historical, that's been hard to come by. And please encourage you. July 30th is the 15th meeting of the planning board next week. Not sure how many more there will be. They're trying to cut it off. We're not done, but it is important now to get on that record. I think that's my beat. I appreciate your consideration. And if there's any questions, most people here know how to find me. I have more information than I presented, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Pennell. Anybody else in the element? Yes, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Jan Zales. I'm a Verona resident of over 50 years. This is my first time speaking in front of the town council. Thank you all for having me. I'm here to talk about starting the adult swim program back up at the Verona pool. This has become a passion of mine, and I think it could be a really great benefit for residents across the town. In addition to allowing parents to use this opportunity to get their young children something to eat and make sure they are well hydrated, those of us without younger children are also able to use the pool in relative serenity. I envision this as a defined period during the day. My proposal would be to have 2 15 or 20-minute sessions every day set aside for adult swim time. I believe a good time for these periods would be 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. In my own observation, these times would allow the largest number of eligible pool members to take advantage of this pilot program. Pool members would know of this program via signage at the front entrance and announcements over the loudspeaker by the office staff. Prior to speaking with you today, I circulated a petition among the pool members. In just 2 days, I received 77 signatures supporting this program and feel confident I could significantly grow this number if there is a need to see greater support to consider this request. I'm mindful that I am making this request midway through the 2025 pool season, and that it may be difficult to commit to changes when families have already signed up for a service. Because of this, I would like to suggest an adult swim beta test over a 2-day period in late August, weekday or weekend, to allow for real-time feedback, suggestions from members of our community. Prior announcements via emails to pool members, flyering, and other forms of communication will ensure members are aware of this trial well before it happens. Afterward, I'd like to suggest an email poll sent to members after the trial period. If successful, I hope town council and pool leadership could use this feedback received to consider implementing a permanent adult swim program in season 2026. I have fond memories of this program myself back when I was the parent of a young child. Deputy Mayor McAvoy, I hope you too recall this time with good spirits. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to come before you, and thank you for your consideration in bringing this program back.
Thank you, Ms. Downs.
Thank you.
We'll respond when all the comments are done. We're not just letting them all. Anybody else in the gallery? Mr. Franklin? Oh, thank you.
Thank you. So I'll just do.
Members of the Verona Town Council, my name is Daniel Frankloch, and I'm a Verona resident and fourth-year lifeguard at the Verona Community Pool. Like many of you, the financial situation at the Verona Pool alarmed me as well. I share many childhood memories with the place, and I, like many Verona residents, wanted to share my input when I saw the My Verona MJ story, financial state of the VCP. In an email, I sent you all a plan for how to lower the costs and raise revenues of the Verona Pool. I'm aware I have a limited amount of time to talk about it, so I'll try to keep it short, but if I don't finish, perhaps I can in a later public comment or some other time in this meeting. As a guard at the VCP, I've seen the pool operate and it runs well. However, there are numerous things that could be improved to increase efficiency. In my plan, I mentioned lowering the number of guards during the weekend adult swim hour. There have been instances where we have a fully staffed pool watching over a single-digit number of people. There should be 7 guards up on during adult swim hour instead of 13, saving thousands of dollars over the course of the summer. The specifics are specified in the final. Additionally, sometimes the office has a large amount of people simply sitting around and waiting for something to happen in the large room. Realistically, you only need 2 people in the morning, no slide, which we currently do, 3 people on a non-busy shift, and 4 people in the office on a busy shift. Capping the number of people at 4 or on an incredibly busy holiday 5 would save a large sum of money over the course of the summer in the tens of thousands. As of right now, there are 5 people working in the office at once, 2 in the actual office, 1 in the small desk, 1 in the slide tower, and 1 on break. However, the job is largely sitting and waiting for patrons to arrive, so a break is not exactly mandatory to increase performance or alertness like it is with lifeguards. Furthermore, there truly only needs to be one person in the actual large office at all times, as they will have enough time to answer the phone while the person at the small desk checks the person in. On particularly busy days and holidays, an exception can be made to go to the standard pod. The same is true with maintenance. Maintenance has the duties of checking the chlorine every 30 minutes, as well as checking the pool gutters and cleaning up not so wonderful situations. In the evening, the largest obligation job appears, which is to deposit 24 or so trash bags in the bin and clean up. Realistically, morning and afternoon shifts should be capped at one maintenance person. However, I will admit evening shifts do move significantly smoother with two maintenance people. Capping the amount of people would save, again, a substantial amount of money over the summer. One of the biggest expenses dragging the pool down is the splash pad. It's no secret that the Verona residents are most upset about the cost of the splash pad. In public comments on social media, it's frequently criticized as an expenditure of money. A large reason for the high maintenance cost is the fact that water is not recirculated into the main pool. If it was, then the pool would save tens of thousands in maintenance cost annually. In order to do this under NJSC 8:26, it would require the splash pad to get its own filtration system. Although this would cost roughly $100,000, the money for this project would be eligible for many water conservation grants throughout the state. An example includes the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which matches the money the town spends 50-50, among others. It would be an environmentally conscious decision for the council to make and would save the pool money in the long run. Finally, in the next gen solution reports, I was able to see $100,000 was allotted to repair the basketball courts for financial year 2026. Let me assure you, the basketball courts are not $100,000 in just repair. I've yet to hear any residents seriously complain about it, and the current state the pool is in financially, it's simply not worth it. So on the other hand, let's finish this section. How do we make more money? In my proposal, I note the local recreation improvement grant from the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. The grant covers $100,000 of equipment, repairs, improvements, and renovations, among important things, used for a myriad of things at the VCP. Secondly, I've done research on other towns' pools. They seem to be two extremes, very cheap small pools and luxurious pools that are exceedingly expensive. So on your leaflet, you can see, compared to Glen Ridge and Montclair Beach Club, the Verona pool, as presented, is quite luxurious for its price. If Verona residents had a visual comparison like this mailed to them, along with a genuine letter from the town council soliciting town pride and explaining the state of the pool, I believe I would get many more people, it would get many more people to sign up. I have more, but I'm running out of time, so I'll finish up at the end of the meeting with the concluding.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Anybody else in the gallery? Mr. Shore?
Good evening, Corey Shore, Verona, New Jersey. I just want to say that was just fantastic from such a young person. Very great to get up here to speaking with great amount of data and good points. Not saying I agree with everything, but I think that's one part of this great community is that we discuss these ideas and get it out there. And at such a young age, I appreciate it and I thank you for that. I just wanted to point out just one thing that wasn't mentioned. And I think it's important for the residents to understand, because I've seen a lot of comments, whether it's social media or other comments about what is the actual cost for the Verona pool every single year, almost every single year now that we have the splash pad and the slide and all the great amenities that we have. It costs between the debt and the actual cost operating cost, it's a little over $1 million. So we have to generate over $1 million to have revenue that covers our costs and savings. This gentleman over here did a great job of saying that the splash pad could use some alternative ways to save money because that didn't happen to begin with. Well, the only way to do that is if we put in 1.2, 1.3 of revenue so that we have savings to put into the capital savings account to be able to pay for that long-term planning. So I think that is one thing that residents need to understand, that costs have gone up, labor, state of New Jersey, it's gone up, really nothing much that the community, the Verona can do about that. Chemicals have gone up, a lot of things have gone up, and we just have to work it out and bring up our revenues, cut down on some of our costs if we can. We know we have to be safe, that's of course, and just move forward as a community to solve the problem. And I think I want to thank the council, I'd like to thank the mayor, I'd like to thank the administration for working with our committee, working with me, and I think over the next couple of months we can get the job done. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shore. Yeah, Mr. Paulsino.
Good evening, Nick Policino, Verona. First, I'd like to commend the young man that spoke before me. Took many great points that I wanted to bring up, but he touched on them even better. And I think it's good to get a perspective of a young lifeguard who sees things from a different perspective than the rest of us. Again, I want to talk about the pool. I've been going to the pool for 40 years now. My father, who's here tonight, was here on opening day when the front pool first opened and had no grass. So here we talk about our 2025 problems. Day one of the Verona pool, they set their chairs up in mud. And they enjoyed it because they'd waited all that time for it to be built. They saw the construction and they got to enjoy it anyway. But anyway, my kids are now fourth generation that have been able to enjoy the Verona pool. I hope that will continue for decades and generations to come. Verona pool offers a lot of things for residents. For residents, for new families, it's a chance to meet people. For parents, it's a chance to introduce their kids to other kids, to create this whole lifestyle outside of the school system, outside of games and sports and activities and band. Families really get a chance to bond. It's a chance where they can relax, feel comfortable, really take into account all the benefits that the pool does offer. For our younger residents, I think it's a great way. For many people that grew up in Verona, it's their very first job, whether they're a lifeguard, whether they work at the snack concession, maintenance, front desk, that's their first introduction into the working world. And I think for parents of Verona kids, it's very simple. They're in town, they can walk to work, they can carpool to work. I think it really helps for 15, 16-year-olds, get them into the workforce, get them a little taste of what it's all about. And it's also convenient for their parents as well. One of the main things I want to ask administration as well as the council, I've asked the prior two town managers for a separate pool committee comprised of pool members that can function underneath as a subcommittee of the Recreation Advisory Committee. I think Corey and his committee do a fantastic job, but I think given the needs of the pool and how they've changed financially over the years, I think a group of pool members that can dedicate, whether it's a monthly meeting, bi-monthly, however it needs to be set up, but I feel like they can really dedicate all their time and all their resources towards the pool. Obviously, right now, the condition is we need to close the gap of how much we spend and how much we bring in. A lot of residents have been speaking, not just in the past week in response to the article, but they've been speaking since last summer of things we can do. Some of those ideas, which are not all mine, it's some that people have shared with me, are business sponsorships. There's a lot of small business owners in town that have brought up the idea of being able to have a sign or a banner or some type of sponsorship up at the pool. If you drive by Salito Field at the high school during football season, you'll see that the Fifth Downers bring in a ton of solicitation from local businesses. They have a banner up, their name is mentioned. It's a small, inexpensive pamphlet, a handout that people could take that show their businesses that are representing, and hopefully residents put money back into those businesses throughout the town. Adult splash parties were a huge thing in the 80s and 90s up at the pool. Anyone that was a part of them could tell you they were a huge success. Residents came out. It was a big deal in this town when you had a splash party. If we tried it next summer on a trial basis, maybe having one or two, I think the benefit would outweigh the cost for certain. There's other types of sponsorship programs we could do. Some of those could be sponsor a brick program. The high school has done it. The elementary schools have done it. They bring in money. People want their name out there. People don't mind spending $100 to have their name on a brick that memorializes something. And, I think we have to draw off the community. Recreation, band, high school sports, our religious institutions in this town. When organizations in Verona do something, people respond positively. They come out, they support, they spend money. I think we could utilize the pool in the same manner. The pool has the largest parking facility of any of our Verona owned properties. I feel like it's a disservice by not utilizing that in the off season, whether it be a farmer's market or something of the like that could bring more into the pool. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Everybody else in the gallery? Mr. Stein.
Walter Steinman of Verona, New Jersey. I want to congratulate my fellow lifeguard over here for his comments tonight, and the other members of the town that have made information about what is needed at this pool. My father was the administrator of this town at the time of the pool opening. On August of 1967, the family membership was $70. I looked up the CPI since that period of time to July of 2025. the number comes out to $674.01. So the cost has not really escalated that much, but we've had increases in minimum wage, increases in chemical costs, increases in debt service. And those are the operations that have caused an increase in the expenses of this town for the pool. So all the information that all these individuals have given is great ideas, and I think we all should implement it. One of the ideas I have is to reinstate the ice skating in the parking lot that we did the first couple of years, where we flooded the parking lot and had ice skating there, and also had hot chocolate. We went that for a couple of years because Verona Park never froze. I've also proposed in the parking lot, as the gentleman also said about using the parking lot, maybe have a parking lot picker where people get a table, they bring their car up, they got stuff they want to sell at their house, everybody goes around, we have food there and something like that in the fall, in the spring, something those those are my ideas, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Simon. Anybody else in the gallery? Okay, I'm gonna move to Zoom. If anybody does want to comment, they pop up your head. This isn't your last opportunity. Kevin's iPad. I'm guessing this is from Mayor Ryan.
Go ahead.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, it's Kevin Ryan, Verona, New Jersey. Just a quick comment. I'd like to commend all the citizens who spoke about the pool, but thankfully for you, I think they've covered it all. I just had two quick points to make about one of your items on the agenda, the Children's Fund. I would hope that when you actually get ready to introduce an ordinance, that you provide a little bit more background on what how the Children's Fund was created and what it's all about. I think we have a tendency, for those of us who've lived in the town for a very long period of time, to think that everybody is familiar with a lot of the programs here. And since I currently sit on the zoning board, I can tell you that that's really not the case. We have a lot of new residents here, and I think it would be very helpful to them if you provided a little more background when you get into actually introducing the ordinance on the Children's Fund, just the purpose of it, a little bit of history. Mr. Mayor, I'm sure you would appreciate that, on why it was started and what the purposes of it were. And the second point that I wanted to make is the famous traffic light on the corner of Pompton and Claremont has finally been installed and activated. I was still on the council at the time, over 4 years ago, when the council actually passed a resolution endorsing the installation of the light after the town had sponsored a traffic study. It was a bureaucratic nightmare because the state and the county were involved, and they did get input from the town. But I just wanted to share my own initial experience with it, since I live in that segment of the town, has been very positive. In terms, there was a lot of people who were very concerned about traffic backup. I haven't experienced that. I will admit I don't travel there much during rush hours, but I'm hoping at subsequent meetings we could ask someone from the police department to just give us an update on what the experience has been in terms of the effect of that traffic light on the general flow of traffic in Verona. I know the people who live on the other side of Pompton Avenue, I would imagine, and maybe Councilman Roman may have some experience with this. I think they would have to be thrilled that they can actually cross the street with the light there, and that the cars can also cross over Pompton and go straight through on Claremont. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. I saw Ms. Connolly, but she's no longer. Oh, she just tried to put up again. There you go. You just have to unmute. Ms.
Yes,
Connolly.
thank you. Oops.
Okay, Ms. Connolly, you just raise your hand again first, please. There you go.
Okay.
Then go ahead. You're still muted.
I'm trying. There we go.
You're good. We can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. I had written comments with some suggestions. I'm sure you've heard quite a few of them already. In addition, things that were not mentioned tonight, maybe a weekend membership category for those who can't use the pool during the work week, monthly membership for those people who take 2 or more week vacations during July or August. I had sought a clarification of the guest pass situation because it's unclear. The way it's currently written, it seems that a resident day pass costs much more than a guest pass. These are all things that can be addressed. The one thing that I do want to make mention of that hasn't been mentioned, perhaps, although Nick did, we need a separate pool committee, perhaps under the auspices of the Recreation Council. Mr. Shore said that he sent you recommendations as the council members, but where did they come from? What was the process? I saw Jan and Walter and Nick, many of whom I see at the pool frequently. Whether or not they're happy about that, I don't know. The young man who's the lifeguard. These people all, I think, as I would, could be members of this pool committee. You said you're going to have meetings in September and October. Perhaps people who would volunteer could be included in those discussions, or at least make those meetings public. The last thing I want to say is that the pool, as we all know, I believe, it's an asset to Verona, and even non-members benefit, and that's reflected in our property values. It's actually one of the 9 noteworthy features that's described in the article on Verona on Wikipedia. Many of us no longer have school-aged children, yet our taxes do go toward the public school system. Its worth, as with the pool, increases the worth of our homes. I'm sure you all appreciate the fact, and I do appreciate the fact that you meet on a regular basis. I would much rather be sitting on my patio looking out for hummingbirds, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Cahill. All right, at this time, I'll close public comments. I do want to respond more specifically to some and more in general to others. Mr. Panullo, thank you for bringing those documents to our attention. Mr. Aloya, if you can touch base with Mr. Musera and discuss this, that would be great.
Copy I'll provide it.
Okay, what's that?
A copy of everything was provided.
And I think if Mr. Musera can play a role in bringing this information forth, that would certainly be helpful. Just for the public's edification, Mr. Aloya, can you just explain what our current legal proceeding is related to this property?
Sure, so the current proceeding is an appeal. So what happened is we were denied standing. And there are arguments, some of them were actually espoused today by our speaker on why that decision was wrong. And so we're actually entering into a shared service agreement, which is the 4th resolution for tonight. When I say we are, as long as the council says yes, with Essex Fells and Roseland to challenge that decision.
Thank you. Okay, so Mr. Panula, I appreciate that, and I always love getting old documents to read too. Historians around for that. To Ms. Zales, I appreciate you coming to the council. I believe what you're recommending would require the council to pass a resolution to change the pool rules. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So that would have to be something that we would discuss and then resolve in pool rules in order to do that. So as far as a trial, we could potentially authorize a trial if we passed a resolution to authorize to amend the pool rules to do that. So I mean, if we're not looking to do that until the end of the summer, we could do that at the next meeting. We can have I don't see an issue with doing a beta. Does anybody see an issue with that?
Not at all.
So
I'm fine.
So as a straw poll, why don't we put something together? I think it'd be helpful to take the time recommendations that Ms. Sales has recommended and run by the pool management, just see if they have any objections or if there might be a time that works for them. That we could do, but I don't see a reason not to pilot it. So let's cover how to work, Ms. Sales. We actually take suggestions, listen to them, and try to act on them. It's one of those crazy things. So let's see if we can do a resolution to do that. We just can't, because we have to change the rules, we can't take any action tonight. But we would be able to do that in our first meeting in August. To Mr. Franklin, all the AP government experience certainly has just got really dark in here.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. This certainly comes to use. I appreciate you coming forward. I will tell you that I appreciate all of your suggestions, and I've made several of them, especially almost ad nauseum, especially about some of the staffing related things. So it's good to have validation from inside on that. And I think in general that goes in, but I think your approach and on the marketing and looking at some of these things on a more micro level will help. And that's going to go to kind of my general comment on the pool. We're getting a lot of different feedback with a lot of ideas from the public, which is great. What we have to do in my position as council is we listen to everything, we take a look at what we can put forward. So some of the suggestions that are coming forward have been things that we have been doing. Mr. O'Sullivan put that forward. So for example, sponsorships is something that we've started working on, right, Mr. O'Sullivan? And Kevin and I had a conversation a couple weeks ago about expanding the sponsorship potentially to, and this is, was my recommendation to, one of the things I hear from business owners is that they are sponsoring a lot and putting their name on something, and they may not get a return on investment on that specifically that they can track. So one of the recommendations that I had is to, with a sponsorship, if you pay a certain level, to allow that business owner to have a table for a certain amount of time at the pool in one of the areas where they could actually talk to and it wouldn't be aggressive, they wouldn't go and talk to anybody, but if people came over to them, that would have to, once again, that would have to be the rules that we would have to change and so on to do that, but that might have some added value to a sponsorship where they'd have some direct conversation. You always have people who are chiropractors, physical therapists, come and do chair massages or something like that. That could be something that could happen, and that could be a higher fee that they would charge for that, but also get a more significant return on investment. So these are the things that we're working through and hearing all these things. The one thing I want to point out is that we have a big issue, right, in going to Mr. Shore's point in taking that 800 and let's say $50,000 of revenue, let's say 875 at the end of the summer, right, and making that into 1.2 million. Okay, that's the issue. So we have to do some major changes for that. But at the same point, one of the things that I've always put forward since I joined the council and started asking about like copier leases and stuff like that is sometimes it's also the little things that make a difference in increasing income and reducing expense. I think reducing expense is very important as well. At the same point, anytime that we do something, we also have to look at the labor costs of that. As far as if we have a program, who from our township staff is going to take that on, and what, because most of our township staff are employees that have set work weeks by collective bargaining agreements. What are we going to give up if they're working on one of those items, right? Or would we have to hire somebody to administer a program that may not make enough revenue to pay that person's salary back, right? So these are all things that we have to consider as we go forward. One of the suggestions that I've been kicking around the township manager, and this is just a suggestion, is having kind of a year-round part-time pool coordinator who could do some of these things, work on sponsorships, work on the staffing, so we could pull some of that out of the recreation department and really have that person going, work on all the sponsorships, work on the programs. And if having a year-round staff member on a, on a pretty part-time basis could increase revenue, if we're looking at building revenue, and they could pay their own salary back, plus an additional, let's say 100%, that could be something that we could go forth, right? But we have to look at, is there opportunity cost of doing one program? And, if our staff time is going to be allocated and it could potentially cost us more, right? And going to Mr. Palacino's point about a buy a brick program and stuff like that, I think that's great. We can always find a place to put, I would buy a brick in a second, right? And I think people would do that. There's a lot of joy there. And I think people would want to share their experiences. But once again, we have to figure out how that would be administered, and where it would go and what we would use the funds for, because you don't generally want to do a buy a brick program for operating expense. You want to do that for some kind of capital outlay. So for instance, buying new picnic tables or something like that, right? Which are expensive to buy the new aluminum picnic tables, plastic. So we have to look at all of that as we go forward. That being said, every idea is helpful. And I just want to put it out there that a lot of this stuff has been discussed, is in the works. And council's been talking about the pool as long as I've been on the council and before I've been on the council, and looking at a lot of these ideas. When we got the new gen study, we based our pool fees on that recommendation, right? And we now have some good data. I know Councilman Roman and I both discussed price elasticity of demand. We found out that we've kind of met our point as far as price goes, so we have to determine how the pricing strategy is going to work. But all this plays into that, and I do encourage everybody to keep coming up with ideas. As far as having a pool committee, just to give some background to the public, the Recreation Committee, we recently expanded in membership, so we have more members of the Recreation Committee. The Recreation Committee has a subcommittee dedicated to the pool. That subcommittee reports back to the Recreation Committee, and the Recreation Committee forwards their recommendations to the council and to the administration. And that is the report that we have from Mr. Shore and the Rec Committee. I want to note that was unanimous; those were unanimous recommendations as well, which goes to show how the Rec Committee is going. So I think that's important to note. I would encourage, as we consider the idea of having an additional committee of pool members, or some kind of ad hoc or something like that, I would encourage the pool members to attend the Rec Committee meetings as well, as another point of access into the government when the Rec Committee is discussing these recommendations as well. And you can publicly comment during the Rec Committee meetings, just as you can publicly comment here, because this council has been very good about giving mandates back to our committees and asking for feedback. And that's something that we've definitely expanded on the past few years. That is something I'd like to continue doing, because we have to be able to really analyze all of these recommendations and see what they are. So I'm very thankful to every resident who has who's offered advice. The ice skating thing is a cool idea. We have the joint insurance fund would actually insure that, because it is considered a high risk item. But those are all good things. Once again, we have to figure out staffing versus income versus opportunity cost. How does all that play out? And that's something as we go forward. But I do want to assure the public that, and I could speak only for myself, but I think the rest of the council would agree, is that we are thoughtfully looking at this and considering every item. And balancing out the big changes we need to make on revenue and expenses for the new year. So I look forward to having all of that information as we move forward. And Mr. Ryan's point on the Children's Fund ordinance, I think as we put out some information, it would be helpful to have some of the background on that. The Children's Fund has been around for as long as I've lived in Verona, which is 17 years, I think. And so it would be nice to have some more of the background. We could talk to Doug Huber and people like that to get some background on the fund as well, to talk about that as we move forward. And it's something that I do encourage everybody to donate to on a regular basis as well. Any other council comments on the public comment, Deputy Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief because As usual, you did touch on everything that people brought up. I would actually like to thank Mr. Canolo for your time, coming here and informing us. As you know, I have been to several of the planning board meetings, so I've been up on it somewhat. But I think it's very important that we realize that there was agreements made back in the eighties, and the town of West Orange should honor those agreements. And I think it's very important that you've now spent the time and found the documents that we need to move forward with protecting it. So thank you for that. I know you put a lot of time into it, and it's appreciated. The town of Verona appreciates it. Pretty much all the other things, we will discuss the pool at length in September and October, so I won't get too far into it, but I do again thank everybody for the emails and the thoughts and the ideas, and get the Adult Swim back. I think it's a great idea. Kids hate it because you hear that booming voice. It's now time for the Adult Swim. So, and Daniel, thank you for the handout. Very impressive. We appreciate your time coming here and talking before us and giving us ideas. But I do like the brick idea also. It's a little more impervious surface, so less runoff. Good for the environment too. But that's pretty much all. One last thing, the light on Pompton and Claremont. I know the people up in that area are very, very happy that it's in there, and I know there's several residents that put a lot of time into it, so I thank them too for their time getting that moving forward. And just so the public knows, the big problem with that is Claremont Avenue at that point is the difference between the state highway and the county. The county actually owns from Claremont to Bloomfield Avenue, so that's why it was putting together a puzzle and trying to get both parties involved and what light fixtures they were using, and that's why it kept taking so long. But I'm very, very happy. I've gone through it a couple times already, and I'm very happy it's a safer corner. That's it. Councilwoman.
I just want to echo, I want to thank everyone for their public comment tonight, all the efforts of We Care, the great proposals and ideas and history. I really appreciated that from all of the members of the public, and I do look forward to the administration, sorting through and having more robust conversations in the fall. And I do want to just add and thank one more person for the light. It was funded by a property owner that owns property on the corner, and that was really why that light happened. Yes, the council supported it. Yes, the county allowed it. Yes, the state allowed it. The equipment was very much back ordered, but it was paid for by a property owner. So I do want to acknowledge that, thank them for making that investment in that property. And now it will be maintained by the county, but it was funded by them, and it is a great step forward. I have used it multiple times this week already, and most importantly, children will have a safe way of walking to school. So it's a great effort by all. Thank you.
Right. We are going to move on to our consent agenda. Does anybody need anything? It's a heavy consent agenda. Does anybody need anything to hold before we? Somebody please move the consent agenda. Well moved.
Second.
The motion is made by the deputy mayor and seconded by Councilwoman McGrath. This time I'll open for public comments on the consent agenda only. The same public comment statement applies. Our comment is limited only to the items contained on the consent agenda. Hearing none, I close public comment. There are several important items on here. I am thrilled that we are getting the shared services agreement done for the permit appeal. I think that will be very important to get done. We started doing repair on the sewer system between the Verona Avenue and the Peckman River, and that was in response to residents filling us in on what was happening back there. So I thank all of them for that as well. And it's great to continue our street sweeping services as well. And a couple of the other items on there as far as awarding contracts. I just want to note that a lot of this is a long time in the making, and it really is nice to be able to resolve these items and award these contracts and get this done. So it seems like it's just a couple little items, but there's a lot of big items right here that we are approving this evening, so. Councilwoman,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's been 4 years, right, since we entered into our water emergency because of PFAS contamination, and here we are tonight, finally approving the remediation of our larger and second well, largely due to a delay from the state of New Jersey. Let's be clear, not a delay on our end. Now that we finally have great engineers working for us, and great project management, thank you to our leadership of our town manager, and town staff. But this is a big moment, also, because we are now submitting all of this through the iBank, we're eligible for loan forgiveness and received, the one benefit of the delay was that the sweet news that the state of New Jersey has put up to $2 million for loan forgiveness for this project, which is great. That in combination with the fact that we're suing the polluters in the first place, and sounds like we should finally be getting some checks soon, I hope, from our class action lawsuits. These wells, while they look expensive on paper, the remediation, there's gonna be a lot of subtraction on the back end. So very excited for this. I'm also really excited about the NJ Future for Aging project, really excited. You know, I know that pilot and getting the technology in this room is so important. So I just want to thank the administration for advancing all of these projects and look forward. And I know Public Works is excited about new dump trucks. And very excited for all of these projects. So thank you everyone for your hard work. I really do feel with the bond that we passed last meeting, that there's a lot of things that we've been in motion for a long time that we need to fix that are really getting there. So look forward to the future. Thank you.
thank you, Councilwoman. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just one question on, we have I-9 on here, the contract for the council chambers audio. What about the community center? Where's our progress with that?
So we have a proposal, from the same contractor for the community center. The balance of the funding for that project will require the technology grant coming from the Comcast franchise renewal. So we will advance this project. We will have the majority of that second project funded. We'll need the balance funded through that technology grant. So once we receive that, we can award that second contract as well.
Do we know the time frame of that?
Well, we keep getting told by BPU that they are under review with our franchise renewal ordinance. Comcast has agreed to the language. We've reviewed the language with special counsel, and we are fine. We're just waiting for the green light from BPU.
Okay, and on I-11, we're receiving a grant for $70,000 from the state. But in here it says we're spending $45,000.
That's correct. The contract with NJ Future is the professional services associated with performing the audit and preparing the action plan. The balance of the funding will be used for marketing materials, mailers, advertisements to make sure we get a good feedback from the public.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further comments, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro,
Yes.
Mayor, resolutions L1 14, 165, through and including 178.
Thank you very much. We have no addenda, we have nothing on new business, though, the deputy manager did bring up, give us the revised ordinance. Does anybody have any comments on the ordinance related to the children's fund? Yeah, it's listed in the packet as EB review. E1B. Just that one, just like adding the paragraph. Percent. And striking through part B, the party system.
I just would like to confirm, that you are proposing this because in the township staff's actual administering of the plan, you see a need for adding an additional definition of not only if there is a adverse event impacting children like death, divorce, serious illness, homelessness, something that's time sensitive, but there's a need for more ongoing assistance for families who are facing more ongoing hardship that is now a little bit more permanent. Is that, if you want to maybe clarify that this is a staff recommendation from actual experience over the last year or two, on how, who's applying and who is requesting assistance from the Children's Fund?
That's correct. I forget all of the eligibility reasons. I think it's if your family is going through death, divorce, serious illness, medical, unpaid medical bills. Domestic violence, parents' unemployment, things like that, but it's becoming more and more common that the applications for benefits don't fit into one of those categories. It's just people who are struggling financially. The cost of living in this area is exceeding their wage growth, or maybe they were unemployed and they found new employment. They're no longer unemployed, but they're underemployed. They can't afford things like recreation programs, glasses is something, school trips,
Prom tickets.
project, but I think there was capping down for people, things like that.
And earlier you said, so this added definition is 185% below 100.
I think
Up to 185% poverty level. And you cited, a family of one, but of course, this is about children.
I just
So
remembered that number.
yeah, so I have the numbers in front of me. So for a family of four, just to anchor this, it would be making less than $59,477 for a family of four, or let's say a parent and child, $39,127. So that just kind of anchors the conversation. Have you used this definition to look at current recipients of the Children's Fund and identified, and if you could give us an idea, generally how many families are applying for the Children's Fund in a given year, and have you looked at how many families may now no longer qualify if we adopt this ordinance? What's the impact?
I've not looked at how many families may no longer qualify. I can look at that. And for the second part of the question, sorry.
How many families currently get a benefit from the Children's Fund?
I don't know how many over the course of the year. I believe the most recent quarter that was reported was 13 or 14 families received the benefit.
Okay. Personally, I would like to see a last year or two, if possible, of how many unique families kind of interacted with the Children's Fund. And given the current family makeup, how many families will basically no longer qualify if this were to be implemented, just so we can understand before we pass something, the real life impact, and then how are we going to manage that transition for them? That's one of my questions.
Okay.
Thank you. On the ordinance language.
Yes.
Any other comments? Any other new business items? No. Go back to the sheet.
Application fees are in part, the ordinance is tied to the health fund, so we can discuss it now, or do you want to wait until hearing Maya at the first meeting in August?
I think we can discuss that next.
I think we should discuss the rec, especially since Mr. Shore and other members of the committee are here.
One. You have your.
just from a organizational standpoint, the ordinance sets the maximum. Correct.
It sets the maximum allowable charge.
So the administration's plan, based on the communication that we received, was to raise the increases. Correct.
That's correct. It was more than, I think, a $5 increase or something much smaller we might have implemented right away. And then for some of them that had a $15, $20, $30 increase, we recommended phasing it in over a period of 3 years.
I think that's one of the pieces that's very important to me, is to phase these items in. I think one of the lessons that we have to remember from the pool related to memberships is basically the elasticity of demand. Once again, I'm gonna say it before Councilor Verona does. But are we going to get to a point where people stop using and participating in these programs because the fees are higher, right? So a reasonable increase is fine. It's taking people out or giving people a better alternative at a trade-off to do something else, right, with that same amount of money. One of the, I think the living fallacies that exists is that because we live in a more economically sound area, that everybody has money to pay these items. That's really just not true. People are making decisions every day related to finances, and I think we have to be sensitive to that. So in general, I'm okay with the concept of right sizing. And I think that's what we're doing with these fees, is we're not increasing for the sake of really raising revenue, but really, which we are doing, but it's more getting them where they should probably have been for a while. And some of these things that just haven't been adjusted in a long time. But I think we have to be very careful to phase in and to phase in amounts that are fair to our residents and are not going to push our residents back. Because even if you're looking at, $100 program and we raise it by $10, it's a 10% increase. And the next year we raise it by another $10, it's a 9% increase. So the next year we raise it by $10, it's an 8.5% increase, right? You're increasing now that of 30% over 3 years, which is a significant amount. And so it's something that we have to consider and look at the numbers. So there are two separate issues here, right? The first issue is raising the maximum allowable amount, right? And the second is actually deciding what we're going to charge for the programs. So I think if you look at a fee ordinance and we are looking into the future, I don't see an issue with raising the maximum allowable, right, as far as an ordinance, but I think we need to do potentially a little bit more work on what the actual fees are going in, just so we don't price anybody out. So does that make sense as far as from an ordinance standpoint? I don't necessarily have an issue with the change of the maximum. I really think that we just have to look back at and I know the rec committee did this and the administration's done it, but I think we just have to be really careful on what our actual increases are. And maybe, not increase them as much in year one or something like that. Just to think about that, because we're not necessarily losing money here. It's just we're minimizing what we could gain. We just heard about the increase in the summer playground participation, right? Which is great. We're bringing in more revenue related to that. At the same point, if we increase these more and more and more, we might be in a situation where we don't get that same increase and people drop. So those are my thoughts on that. So two parts of that conversation. Councilwoman Crabb?
Thank you. I think overall, and first of all, I want to thank the Recreation Committee for really diving in. I've been looking, for this level of analysis on these programs for a very long time. While I agree with some of the mayor's statements, where I'm concerned is the summer playground program. So just for edification for the public to really get it on the record, you only mentioned that we had an increase in the number of members, but there is a cost side to this. So can you give an overview, please, of the financial status of the summer program summer playground program, please.
The summer playground program. Last year had a total cost of approximately $190,000 to $195,000. The majority of that was staff costs. And I am blanking on the exact number, but when I believe the loss on summer playgrounds was around $69,000 last year.
So a loss, just to restate that, is the taxpayers subsidize the summer playground program
Correct.
to the tune of $69,000.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that piece. You know, I think every parent in Verona knows that this summer playground program is way too cheap. That's why they're enrolling in it, because it is well known that it is by far the cheapest camp out there. I really appreciated the analysis, and I'm not sure if you put it together or the Recreation Advisory Committee that looked at the per hour cost of this camp compared to other towns, and showed that we are, now I gotta find it. The cost per hour was $1.71 that parents are paying. Whereas in other towns, they're paying $2 an hour, even Livingston, it's $5 an hour, North Caldwell, it's $4.80 an hour. So it just shows how cheap it is. So I see the rate, you know, to phase in larger increases. I don't think our recreation program should be losing that much money to that level. And I hope that the analysis on the basketball program is complete, and other large programs, but certainly this one is gonna need an adjustment, but it's gonna need a lot of clear communication. Should we approve this ordinance? It's gonna need a lot of clear communication. A couple of things about this ordinance, so I would recommend that the maximum family rate, so what you're basically, the way it is now is if you enroll 2 children in summer playground, you're paying 2 times the individual rate. If you're enrolling 3 children, you're only paying 2 times the individual rate. Well, we should just, instead of having a dollar amount, we should just have that math right there, if that is the intention of the recommendation from administration, that basically if individuals enroll more than 2 children, they're only paying 2 times the individual rate. That, then when you float that up, our maximum makes sense. And it also makes sense for councils in the future that may adjust this. Everything after that, from summer kickoff program, you know, through the next few lines, I don't know what these programs are, so
I spoke with recreation earlier today. They don't use any of those programs anymore. They can either come out or remain in there. I would probably recommend leaving. I think there's special events or programming. Which would cover certain things.
Okay, so you may in the next version of this kind of streamline this a little bit there.
And also the cost comparison by hour, I just want to give credit to the recreation committee, they did that work.
That is an excellent, this is like my new favorite spreadsheet, so thank you. Because even on the basketball program and even the basketball program is so much further underpriced than everyone else. So I think when we talk about, you know, value, like that, there's the answer right there, or that we're giving a lot of value, but we don't have to give maybe that much value, considering that some of these programs should be, maybe they're not supposed to make a profit per se, but they should be breaking even. $69,000 is a big loss. And so what is the loss on summer program? I know you're still trying to work it out, but there's going to be another significant loss this year on summer program.
There will be.
Something similar.
Something similar. I will get that information too.
Yes, I think that would be really helpful. The other part of this ordinance that was included, because you included everything, is fields. And so, you know, I did ask the administration, we may, I don't want to speak for you, so I'll just say that we did a lot of work on these individual programs, but we need to look at the field and space rental costs as well. So I hope that that is covered in the near future. We just really, this is an opportunity to tighten all this up. And I think we want to make sure we look at other towns and what are they doing and where are we falling? And if there's opportunities, I think we should take them to make sure we're at least at par with other communities. We don't have to be so low. Those are my thoughts, but I really appreciate all of the hard work of the record advisory committee, your hard work and answering some of these questions. Oh, I'm sorry, one final thing is, you mentioned water aerobics in here. Again, we cover that under our pool ordinance, so we just want to make sure we're not duplicative. And on the ski trips, I do have concerns that this maximum is maybe not high enough because of the fluctuation in the bus market now that DeCamp has closed down. So there's a lot of price elasticity with the parents enrolling in ski program. And that's another one that I think the council should see the cost benefit of that last season. And if money was lost on the ski program. So,
The ski program lost around $3,000 or $4,000 last year.
okay. Doesn't seem as big as compared to summer playground. But a lot of kids do ski.
It's a smaller dollar figure.
Okay. All right, thank you for all of that, and I look forward to talking about this again. I don't know if it's ready for introduction next week, because there's still some outstanding questions, or next meeting, but this is good. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, anything? No. The one thing before I'm willing to vote on this, especially the big increase, just for public application. The recreation summer camp, the administration's recommendation is to increase this tuition by 50% in the first year. I'm not comfortable with that as a first year increase. But one of the things we have to look at no matter what, and this is the issue that we're getting, deciding what the fee is for program is not the end all to deciding its financial viability, right? We also need to look at staffing levels. We need to understand more. I had a conversation with Mr. Shore about, and was it bring this up, Mr. O'Sullivan, about visiting some of these programs, just seeing them in action a little bit. But for background, I ran the summer recreation for municipality in Morris County. That was running in the red. My first year, we moved it to the black by reducing staff significantly and really meaningfully deciding what we were going to offer and looking at supplies, looking at all of those costs and things like that. I don't necessarily think we have to do that. At the same point, while I would love to see all of these programs break even, part of our rec department is to provide a public service that people are paying in their taxes, right? So recreation is something that people are paying in their property taxes already. So we also have to consider that as a piece of it. But I don't see my approval in seeing a 50% increase on a fee in any first year, right? Especially without having an understanding of what the administration's plans are to reduce costs and to determine they need to look at, well, some recreation doesn't fall under Department of Health standards as far as inspection of camps and things like that. Other camps do. It would be helpful to look at what those ratios are that would be inspected for, say, a private day camp or something like that, and looking at staffing on those ends and really coming to those conclusions, and seeing if there are ways that we can increase the value of the program by including more opportunities, whatever we can do. But I would hate for us to make the same mistake that was well intentioned with the pool, was significantly increasing the fee while not offering much more of an increase in service, right? And that's something that we have there. So I think we have to be very careful, and I think we have to operate on the assumption as well that this could very easily price out a lot of people if we change this, and then we're in a situation where we could be suffering more of a loss. And that's the big lesson that we should have learned. So I don't think this is ready for, especially the summer item, for at least another couple of months until we can really get a good understanding of those summer programs, which have the biggest increases. On another item that might be a smaller increase, I think that's something we could potentially move forward on, but on some of these other items, we really have to do our due diligence and understanding the actual implications of our decisions. So, that's just going back, but not everybody can afford 50% increase. All right, any other new business? Hearing none, I will open for public comments one last time. Same public comment, statement applies. Zoom up. Mr. I'm gonna start with Zoom this time, since I did Zoom last. Mr. Ryan, you're up.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Kevin Ryan, Verona, New Jersey. I wanted to jump back to the children's ordinance again, since I may not have an opportunity again to comment on this before you draw up or codify some of the changes that are in the draft copy here. Mayor, you were exactly right in saying the children's fund has been around for for as long as most of us can remember. But I did want to provide a little background on that. In prior years, the children's fund actually was under the auspice of the health department here. Those of us who will remember, we actually had our own health department. And then at some point, we entered into a shared services agreement, I believe, with Montclair. And forgive me, I'm not exactly sure where we're at with that now. But it got shifted basically from the health department to the rec department. I'm sure the municipal clerk can probably provide the dates when that happened. And when it was around originally, the council had very little involvement with it. And in fact, we were cited on a state audit, I believe, of our finances for not even having an ordinance codifying it, even though we had it there. So this was, I think, probably during the time period somewhere between 2016 and 2020. So the ordinance that you're looking to revise here is not really that old. It's probably much younger than the children's fund actually is. Before the ordinance, the administrations at the time basically ran the children's fund. The only time that the council got involved was during the budget process. We would get a sheet, and we would just see a balance of how much money was in there. Now I'm saying this, and I'm not implying that anything was done inappropriately. The people who administered it were very honorable people, but it just needed to be tightened up. Okay. And I guess the ordinance was the first attempt to do that, where we got quarterly reports, at least at the council level. And I know in the ordinance it does list the 3-person committee that's responsible for ensuring that the funds are dispersed properly. And the council, I believe, is getting quarterly reports now. Hopefully they are, or have access to it whenever they need it. But the other thing to remember here is that the people who are actually running the fund, and I'm not going to name names because I'm not going to, are not really the 3 people who are listed in the ordinance. So it might be appropriate, and you can talk to council about this, to maybe put a phrase in there about somebody on the committee allowing a designee to make recommendations to the committee, because I believe it's actually de facto that's the way it's running now, and I believe it is being handled by an employee currently in the rec department. I know we get most of the referrals from the school system, because it is called the Children's Fund, and it's worked relatively smoothly, but it just needs to be tightened up. So I would please, just remember that when you put the ordinance in there, and the idea of specifying income levels, just really look into that, because I don't know if that's been the practice before. A lot of this stuff comes up on an ad hoc basis, and I don't think it was ever designed to really provide long-term assistance. My understanding always was that this was for people who needed short-term help. If they needed more long-term assistance, they really need to be referred to the state, the county Department of Social Services. So thanks for the opportunity to comment.
Thanks, Kevin. Anybody know more Zoom? We're starting, our Zoom attendees are dropping off there. Mr. Short.
Say my name again?
No.
No, okay. I just wanted to go back a little bit into the rec program fees, into two specific areas that we looked at. Number one is summer camp. I think we all agree that the $300 is way too low. But the difference between the pool and the rec programs, especially the summer camp, is the back end of the taxpayer dollars. The pool does not have that back end because it is limited not to use taxpayer dollars, which was decided a couple of years ago. With that being said, if we're going to limit the amount of fees for the summer camp, then that means that the administration should look at the budget next year to increase the amount that's going to the summer camp because the fees are too high. That is one thing that our recommendation committee was that's why we did a slide in going into it, so that they can do that in the budget, that they can bring it there. So it's either the fees, to where I think it, $600 is not the end of the world compared to some other camps. But if you're worried about that, then you can do that in the budget for next year, which I would take a conversation with the rec department right now with Mike. And I think he would agree that, we worry about staffing, you worry about those kind of things that you want to do. So I would take a look at that. Some of the programs are also in that study as well. Now, from a operational side of it, you might say, okay, fine, we might be breaking even. But if you look at overheads, if you look at the administration fees, they're not breaking even. They're losing money. So we can say that operational side of it with the fees, it's just all it is with those additional things like the administration and overheads, that means the taxpayer is taking a lot more. So when someone said to me it was 58 to 41% in the actual fees compared to taxpayer, no, it's not. It's about 80-20, because you have those other fees that are in there as well. So when you're looking at that as well, please look at a lot of your programs are actually not making money because of those other fees and other things and other costs that are in it as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Mr. Franklin.
Well, I'm just gonna finish what I was saying earlier about the pool. I'm sorry to kind of beat a dead horse this meeting, but I'm just gonna conclude like kind of with the elephant in the room, the out of town memberships. Judging by the fact nobody's brought it up, I'm gonna assume it's quite controversial. But New Gen Solutions suggested a price of $2,500 per family for out of town families to come to the Verona community pool. I don't think that's a rational amount. I think that if you go through with that plan, then people just, I think, are gonna either have their own pool, or they're not going to go to the BCP, they're gonna go to some other country club. That's gonna have more of those amenities, and you're gonna kind of price out the out of town residents at that point. New Gen also states in page 53 of their report that the only town in the surrounding area that grants out of town access is Cedar Grove. But that misses West Caldwell, that offered membership of 2 pools for practically every town in the surrounding area for $760 per family. I believe matching or slightly undercutting Cedar Grove's sum would be beneficial for the town, because that would incentivize more memberships from that range and would actually put people in that price range. And as an added bonus, we'd also undercut Cedar Grove, and what could be more Verona than that? However, to avoid overcrowding, I think the town should sell like a limited number of memberships. For general reference, about at $1,650 or roughly 120 family memberships would cover the full $200,000 lost by the American Rescue Plan funds, or our structural deficit this year. And the price can be adjusted in future years based on demand from that. Out of town memberships, I think, should be explicitly marketed as a limited quantity, because that would increase the demand and word of mouth. We've seen a notable decrease in Verona resident family memberships this year, and I believe, I know all 3 of you actually brought this up, not copying, I had this written down, but I think where further increases will enter the elastic range of demand. If we lowered costs for Verona residents to even modestly, residents would be much happier with the out of town members, because it would be a trade-off. Explaining the lowered price for residences in the mailer I suggested earlier would have the benefits of transparency and honesty integral to this council. Explaining the fact that the pool is a utility and it doesn't use taxpayer funds, I think also is a big thing. I know all of us in this room probably know that doesn't, but I don't think every single person of the 14,000 residents of Verona knows that. So I think that would be important if we sent out a mailer for that. And then I just wanted to end with, if at any point in the process you want to reach out, ask for my help, whether it be for my experiences at the pool or someone to physically mail letters, I'd be more than willing to help anytime I'm not in college. I know I'm moving on time, but if you'd like to ask me any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer them. Thank you so much for listening to me, and thank you everyone here for their kind words to me. So thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Any other public comment? Yes, in the back. State your name.
Yes, my name is Ashley Riva, Verona president. I just also wanted to thank the young gentleman on Sunday. He actually helped my daughter out of the pool, so thank you so much. But I wanted to just say I'm very proud to be a resident of a town that is very thoughtfully considering the cost that all these rec departments cost families. I'm someone that is always happy to have my taxpayers go to help the community in whole, especially things like when it comes to childcare, and the summer rec program, the summer playground program certainly feels like that. But I did want to offer just a perspective that I had as a new parent that used that program this summer. When I went to sign up, I legitimately thought I was going to be paying $300 per week, and I was very happy with that. I do not know the council members very well, or the age group of children you may have, or when you had them. And I don't know what summer camps cost when you did have children. They're very expensive. The weeks that my child is not going to the Verona summer playgrounds, I am spending close to $1,000 per week. So just something to consider, one person's perspective as a parent in the community. I would also just like to know, if staff was reduced, I don't know if I would keep sending my child there, which would be sad because she goes to VC first, which she loves. She loves seeing her principal from Forest there. Her librarian was her teacher this summer. I would be very sad if I couldn't send her to VC and then to the summer playground. But I could not imagine reducing staff currently with the levels. Thank you.
Any other comments? Close public comment. Corey, thank you as always for your insight. Daniel as well. Your comments are well taken. I think as far as the out of town membership piece goes, I think that's one thing we have to wait until we get the full financial picture this year to discuss. And to Ms. Riva, I appreciate your comments. I think one of the things you brought up as far as the price difference is important because we do provide it in addition to providing that recreation program, providing service right to the public. And that's something that we do, that government does, that sometimes that to fill the gap, right? Nobody else, you're not gonna get that price anywhere else, right? And part of the reason is because we fill that gap in for families, and there's an expectation when you move into a town like Verona that you'll be provided those programs. I don't, as I said, don't want to price people out. As far as the staffing piece, this is why I want more information, and this is why I want to go in person. Mr. Shore and I have both run summer camps in our youth when we had far less gray hair. And I think us or more hair. But at the same point, I think we have some expertise in going back and forth. It's something that we can look at as well, and really understanding what's going on. I think one of the things with our summer rec programs, because they are inexpensive, we haven't had a lot of insight on their operations because people look at them as an inexpensive program. But as we raise the price of them more, the expectation for service will increase, right? And we have to be able to balance those two things out. So I appreciate that. As an educator and somebody who's run summer programs and worked at them in the hot summers of the 1990s, I can tell you that the proper staffing is important. That's something that we have to discuss, and And looking and deciding what our metric for that is going to be, and also dynamically increasing staff as we have higher enrollment. Right, so staffing and enrollment should be related. And it's something that we have to be able to do, so. But I appreciate your comments on that, and I appreciate you sending your kids to the programs because I understand. Kids enjoy them, and the more kids we have there, the more they get to spend with their friends, and the more brings Verona together, which is what we're trying to do. At this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. I'm sorry, we have to go into executive session, so. We previously passed resolution to go into executive session, so we're gonna do that. Mr. O'Sullivan, any official action?
No.
Okay. So we will see you all here in August, same time, same station. And thank you. Have a good night.